Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and today's video is going to be just a sit-down talking video. Today I'm going to be talking about emotional eating, binge eating, so if that is something that may trigger you or upset you to listen to, maybe skip this video, but I get a lot of questions about it. I have a lot of personal experience with it, and I figure I would share my experience and just kind of talk about the two and how they're different and how they go kind of hand in hand as well. So it is National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. I figured it would be good to get this video up now. I have two other videos that talk more about mental health and about my experience with overcoming binge eating disorder, and I will put those in the description if you're interested. But today I just figured we'd talk a little bit more about it. I haven't talked about it in a while, and I know it helps people to hear it. So if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I guess, just the difference between binge eating and emotional eating. So emotional eating is something that kind of plays into binge eating. Emotional eating is when you eat because you are stressed, you are using food to comfort your emotions pretty much. And this can just happen randomly. It doesn't have to have any certain pattern or anything to be classified as emotional eating. Whereas binge eating is much more specific. So emotional eating can lead to binge eating, where you are eating a large amount of food in a certain period of time, more than a normal person would eat in that amount of period of time is how they classify it. Typically, you're doing this 1, 2, 3, multiple times a week, and it's just a consistent thing. It's something that you feel you have no control over when it's happening, and a lot of times, or most of the time, you feel regret or remorse after you finish your binge. And this is something, like I said, I've talked about before. I used to struggle with this a lot more when I was living at home with my parents. I also really struggled with it while I was away at college, and I don't remember if I talked that much about that in my last video, but I would hide food. I would have these binges. It did occur multiple times a week, if not at least once a week. And it was something I was so embarrassed about. It was something nobody knew about. Adam didn't know about it until really I started talking more about it on my weight loss journey, because I was that embarrassed by it. So he didn't even know. And yeah, it's just something that is so hard to talk about. It's so hard to go through. It's extremely painful. Not only in the sense of the emotional side, but the physical side. You are eating until you are in physical pain majority of the time. That is what used to happen. I would eat until I could not move. It hurt to breathe. Like, it was something that I really struggled with. And then you feel extreme regret after, and you are just hating yourself afterwards. And yeah, again, I'm just speaking off of my experience, so I'm hoping that can help others, but this is just what I have gone through, and I know a lot of people go through the same thing. So I get a lot of questions about how to stop emotional eating. And again, like I said, it's two separate things. A lot of times when someone says emotional eating, I will think about binge eating, but that's not always what they mean, because you can suffer through emotional eating if you don't have binge eating disorder. And so with emotional eating, a lot of times, like I said, you're eating to cope with the stress you're feeling, the sadness, just these emotions that you may not be able to cope with otherwise, and you're using food to cope. And this is something that I'd say I struggle with now more than I did before, because before it was more the binging. And I really feel like I've overcome that. I still get urges to binge. I still get that feeling. There are times where I still overeat, but it isn't considered binge eating because I'm not doing it every week. And it's just different from what it used to be for me and how I handle it and everything. So I truly believe that I've overcome the binge eating side of it. I think I'll always have that with me. I'll always have those feelings with me, but I just feel like I've been working on myself so much that I don't suffer the way that I used to from it. Now, like I mentioned with emotional eating, this is something that I feel like, especially when I'm stressed out, this is something that I do more recently. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just something that I have to continue to work on. And like I said, I think it's because of my past that I still continue to struggle with food and using food for comfort, but it's so much better than it used to be. And I've worked so hard on my mental health. I've worked so hard on my health journey in general. And I think that that's where I've been able to improve that area. So when I'm talking about this, I'm going to be kind of talking about both, although emotional eating and binge eating are two different things. I want you to keep that in mind. But I've done a lot of the same things to deal with both issues. And with binge eating disorder, I do have to say that I think it's a little bit more serious. You may require going to therapy. it'll be different for everyone else in their situation. So if you feel that you can't do this on your own and you need that extra help, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to go to therapy or find something online like that that can really help you. There's online therapy. I know that maybe that would be a good start. And again, that's why I'm just sharing my experience and some things that have helped me, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to diagnose anyone. I just want to help you guys based off my experience. So a few things that have helped me more recently, I've talked about before, have been making sure I'm eating throughout the day, because that was something that always caused me to binge, was not eating all day and then getting home and just stuffing my face. And a lot of times, like I said, that was more the emotional eating side of it, because I wasn't doing it in hiding. I was with Adam. A lot of times it would be our dinner. I would consider our dinner. And a lot of times we would have fast food and then still have another dinner. So it was like we were having 2 dinners in a day, and it was these huge portions, but I wasn't embarrassed to eat them in front of him, although I still considered that emotional eating. I was getting home from work that I was so beyond stressed about my business and work, and I would sit on the couch, eat as much as I could and not move. And that was still very hard for me because I still felt so much regret after it, but I wasn't doing it the same way I was when I was in college and when I was at home when I was younger, where I would wait till everyone was asleep. I would go into the kitchen, make all this food, go to my room and just inhale this food. And like I said, until I was in pain. And this would happen so many times. And I think that's where it kind of changed for me, was that I started doing it in front of Adam, but it wasn't like the same type of thing. Again, it was more using the food for comfort and not so much hiding. And it's really hard to explain the difference between both the emotional eating and the binge eating, because like I said, to me, the main difference was that I was doing it in hiding when I was binging and nobody knew about it. But then with the emotional eating, I was doing it in front of Adam, and it was just like coping with stress, and he even knew that. And honestly, he would do the same thing a lot of the time. So a few things that have helped me have been eating throughout the day so that I'm less likely to binge when I get home, staying full and satisfied, drinking my water, like really focusing on liquid. Cutting out alcohol helped me a lot. A lot of times I would spiral when I was drinking, and then I would just eat until I was in pain. The most important thing has definitely been working on my mental health. It has been working on my stress levels. I am so much less stressed than I was before, and I'm still stressed. And honestly, I kind of thrive on being a little bit stressed out, a little bit, I like having a lot on my plate. I feel like I do so much better when I have a big list of things to do and I'm a little bit stressed out, because it kind of puts a fire under my butt, but not to the point where I was like a couple years ago. And so working on my stress levels, trying to fix my situation so that I was in a place where I could relax, I could take time for myself and have balance. I had no balance before. I have mentioned before, there were nights I would get 30 minutes of sleep and go into work and work a 10-hour shift and then come home and get right back to working on cookies. And I'm not saying that for anyone to feel sorry for me or anything. Like, it was my situation. It was me putting myself in this situation, taking on way more than I could, and it was killing me. And so I had to find a way to cut back and find more balance in my life. And if that's your situation, I just highly recommend you slowly start to find a way to have better balance with your work and just everything that you have to get done in a day. Really focus on giving yourself some time. And that has helped me so much. And another thing that has helped me too is just getting sleep. Like I said, I would get 30 minutes of sleep, some nights an hour, some nights 2 hours. Like, it was horrible. And it would be for nights in a row that I would be falling asleep doing cookies. Like, it was so unhealthy for me. And so getting sleep and making sleep a priority. I got 9 hours of sleep last night and I feel amazing. And that's even more than I usually like to get. I like to really try to stick to 6 to 8 hours because I feel the best then. But I'm not afraid to sleep in if I can. And this morning I did that and it felt really good. And that's really helped me emotionally, like tremendously helped me emotionally. It's helped me physically, mentally. It really has been important to make sleep a priority. And so I highly recommend that if you're struggling with some emotional eating or stuff like that, that might be a place to start. Another thing has just been changing my diet and finding healthier foods, because a lot of times when I would binge or emotional eat, when I was at college, I would go to, if I could ever like get away and go in my car and drive. And I even felt embarrassed, like what if someone sees my car? But I would go to different fast food places, I would get a few things, and then I would just sit in my car and eat them until, again, I was in pain. And I would feel so much regret after. But the point of that is that I was eating so much fast food, so much high sugar, high fat, just really not healthy diet. My food choices were not good. I was not getting vegetables. I was not getting fruit. I was not getting the nourishing meals that I needed to get. And sometimes I'd have maybe like one in the day, but the amount of fast food and unhealthy foods that I was eating over it were just making it so much harder on me, because then that's what I craved. And that's what I craved when I wanted to binge or when I wanted to emotional eat. I needed those like high sugar, high fat foods because they were like comfort foods to me. Now I really focus on having nourishing meals full of fruits and vegetables and proteins and just things that make me feel good. And I've really learned to listen to my body, and that's really helped me in the long run because I don't crave those foods that I used to. And I still let myself have them when I want them and in balance, but I did not have any moderation back then. I would just let myself have it. And so much of this came down to how I felt about myself. Overall, I just didn't want to take care of myself. I thought that it wasn't worth it. I thought I wasn't worth it. And that's not true at all. And I'm not kidding. There were times when I would make these food decisions and be like, whatever, it's too far gone. I'm too far gone. It doesn't even matter anymore. Like, I would just let those thoughts take over and then make these choices that didn't make me feel good, and then I'd be stuck with my decision and regretting it. I know this video is kind of all over the place, and like I said, I'll link the videos in the description that have more of the tips on how I really overcame these things, but really I just wanted to make this video to say, like, you are not alone if you're struggling with this. There are so many people that are struggling with these same feelings, these same episodes. It is more common than you realize, and every day is still a challenge for me. Every day I'm still working on myself. I'm working on my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health. I really am putting that first and making it a priority, and it's not easy. And I want others to understand that and understand how important it is to put yourself first, because you are worth it. When I had those feelings and thoughts that I just wasn't worth it, when I would look in the mirror and just think, you're past the point of getting help or fixing this, or all of those negative thoughts I had about myself, I was so mean the way I talked to myself. And there was no reason for that. And that negative self-talk is what was keeping me in that spot, because I didn't believe that I could make a change. I didn't believe that I could feel better and do better for myself. And when I finally started to make those changes and realized that I could, it's amazing what it did for me mentally and physically. And I just want you guys to know that you're not alone, and that there are other people going through this, and you can get the help you need, and just take it a day at a time. And don't be so hard on yourself. You're working on yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need help. I get it. I get how it feels to not want to tell anyone. And it's honestly been so much easier for me to share this because I get so many people reaching out to me that this helps them. And that just like brings me comfort and makes me feel less alone, because I did feel alone in this. I didn't know. When I was in middle school and high school doing this, I did not know it was a thing. I didn't know that anybody else was doing this. I thought I was the only person, and I felt so alone and ashamed about it, because I was like, no way are any of my friends or anyone I know going home at night and waiting till their family goes to sleep so that they can eat this much food that they don't even want to eat. I would just lose control, and like I said, afterwards regret it so much, but it was like I couldn't stop in the moment, and it was what was helping me, even though in the long run it was not helping me, but I thought it was. Like I said, if you do think you struggle with binge eating disorder, maybe it is time to reach out to a therapist or a doctor, and even that can be so difficult. And personally, I never did that, so I don't have experience with that. I just know that there are resources out there to help you. You can reach out to me. I would love to help talk about it. I know there's only so much I can do, but again, hearing someone else go through the same thing, it's so amazing how like comforting it is and how much it actually can help you to get through this situation. Most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to emotional eating and binge eating, although they are different, is just putting yourself first, taking some time for yourself, taking it a day at a time, and making your mental health your priority. Because like I said, it comes from these emotions. You're doing this because you are feeling out of control or feeling so stressed or so sad or just so overwhelmed. And then food becomes your comfort. And if you can work on fixing those problems and those issues in your life, it'll just go from there. I promise it will help, because that is where I started, and slowly I was able to improve my self-talk and the way I felt about myself. Even when I hadn't been losing the weight, I was able to start talking to myself better and just telling myself that I was worth it, because you are worth it, I promise you. So again, like I said, this video is all over the place, and I know some people won't understand, what it's like to think about food all day and think about how embarrassed you feel because food has this grasp on you. Working on not letting food control your life, finding healthier foods that maybe will help you get away from those really sugary, salty cravings that don't make you feel good. And like I said, I'm here if you ever want to DM me on Instagram. I really try to get back to everyone, especially when it comes to this, because I know what it's like to feel alone and embarrassed when I promise you there is nothing to be embarrassed about and you are not alone. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. It's never really easy to talk about, and I always feel like it's a touchy subject to talk about because I don't want to like offend anyone or make anyone feel worse. I'm really just trying to share my experience and help explain what I've been through and what has helped me. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I will see you next time.